Top 5 hot topics from the college football weekend. Number 5. How messy can the Pac-12 get now? Now, if USC wins, and I suppose Oregon wins again, then everything will be kind of fine going out. But this could get, if you lose here, you're gonna have a lot of teams with the same record going against each other in that, or vying for that Pac-12 championship game in the last week. So it could get really interesting and messy after Oregon lost and UCLA lost this weekend. That's gotten pretty interesting.
I tell you what, that conference has stepped up with all the turmoil off the field because of USC and UCLA.
The Pac-12 and Big 12 are far more alike than anybody wants to admit on either side of this raging Twitter debate. But they're both kind of similar this year in that, from the top, there's a good chunk.
The Pac-12 has 4 teams that are in much more in the discussion. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying about how competitive the league is week in and week out.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a good competitive league week in and week out.
Yeah, we'll see this weekend, Utah, Oregon. That's an elimination game, so that'll separate somebody there. Obviously, USC and UCLA couldn't have really shaped it up any better as far as having meaningful games down the stretch in a tight conference race like this. So, yeah, it's been a wild, fun year in the Pac. That Washington win, obviously, threw things on its side. So great win for the Huskies there, and tough, that all this is. I guess USC, slight chance they could still find their way in, but outside of that, basically it's like the Big 12 in that unless TCU or USC is able to find themselves in, and TCU as an unbeaten would have a much better shot, then you all kind of beat up on each other and eliminated your chances, but it's made for a fun, season of unpredictable football.
Yeah. Number 4, who's going to win the Big Ten West? I mean, it ultimately probably doesn't matter who's going to play Ohio State or Michigan, but right now, as crappy as their season offense could be, Iowa's to lose, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be Iowa.
There's 4 teams all at 4-3, but Iowa has the best shot probably right now. So Iowa, as bad as it's been,
God, that's
could win their side of the conference.
I mean, the offense sucks, but they've been putting up some points lately. But what people fail to typically say when making fun of the offense is how incredible the rest of the team is.
Yeah.
I mean, how incredible their defense is. The fact that most teams, if they had an offense like Iowa's, would not have a win to their name, probably. But Iowa is sitting here and probably going to make the Big Ten championship game, despite how atrocious that offense has been for a majority of the year. So, well done. I don't know. On the one hand, I don't really want to compliment Kirk Ferentz because I do think he's done a bit of a disservice to his team with how bad the offense is, but at the same time, you can't deny the results and can't deny their ability to find other ways to win, even if they make it far more difficult on themselves by not having, a group that's a bit more capable on the other side of that terrific defense. But I think it's going to be Iowa, and it's ugly football, but hey, it gets the job done.
They have been able to get some things together because of everybody else in their division. They've taken advantage of the fact their division is atrocious.
Well, they've also won 3 in a row. Illinois is falling off, and that certainly plays into it. And so, you need some help around you to get back into it. And they've gone on a win streak. Illinois slowed down, and then the rest of it. What was it like? Minnesota early in the year, people thought was going to have a chance,
and they've won 3 in a row.
They won 3 in a row, but they had their thing in the middle there. Obviously, Nebraska was never a factor. Northwestern never a factor. So, yeah.
Michigan, Illinois, and Iowa are 3 of the top 5 scoring defensive teams. Is it because they're that good on defense or because of the conference and the style they play? And I know Ohio State changes a lot of that.
I do think, though, that I think it's the style they play. I really do. I mean, because I think most of the time now people will score even average level scoring, and Minnesota's 4th, right? So so don't leave them out of this.
Michigan 1st, Minnesota and Iowa 4th and 5th.
And Minnesota hosting Iowa this weekend. So
for the Florida Rosedale. Number 3. This is for Garrett, and maybe Garrett alone because we just talked about it, but the college football world is really going to have to deal with Harold Perkins Jr. for 2 more years.
They are. I don't think they're ready. I do not think they're ready, man. This kid is unbelievable. Even if he wasn't an LSU player, I mean, you can't knock or deny the talent that he has and his just way to change and take over a game. I'm excited that he came to LSU, and I'm just excited to see his growth because he's going to be a star, man.
His instincts on sacks and stripping the
absurd.
ball for a freshman are really crazy.
That goes back to what I was saying with the Honey Badger. If you go back and watch the Tyrann Mathieu film from when he was a freshman, he was like that same way, finding the ball, creating the turnovers, and you see a lot of similarities in Harold.
Yeah.
I bet he feels great about flipping when he did.
Yeah.
Could have been. I mean, obviously A&M would probably be a lot better with him, but it's not really like defense has been their major issue. But shoot, I mean, he might have won him a couple extra games on his own. I mean, he's winning them for LSU, right? So yeah, that was a terrific flip late for the Tigers.
Yeah. Number 2, who can sneak into the CFP? And these are teams that are outside of it. Can LSU do it? They're going to need a lot of help because of that second loss. Can USC and Tennessee, to me, and Clemson, I guess, would be the only teams who could reasonably do it. But I do think the committee thinks so lowly of Clemson that a lot of crazy stuff would have to happen for them to get in, including beating North Carolina sizably, which even if they do beat North Carolina is good enough right now where I don't think that's how that game is going to go down when it happens. So I don't know. So is there really only 2 teams that can win out and sneak in, which would be not going in and right now and then finding their way in. But I think it's just USC because I don't think Tennessee is sneaking in. They'll wind up there because of losses around them because the committee would love to see them back in it.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee, I guess in theory could, but yeah, they're not going to play in the SEC title game, so it'd be kind of hard to justify them there. But they could certainly find ways to if they wanted to. But yeah, I think USC, LSU would have to win out, but I don't know. Be interesting to see how they're kind of viewed. But yeah, just a couple of teams really have that opportunity.
Yeah, so now it's even whittling down even that much more. And number 1, I think
Clemson, you mentioned. Sorry,
Clemson. And number 1. I think now, and the committee needs to know this, TCU can win however they need to. I mean, that was not their typical game on Saturday, and they still won. And the whole, they've been behind in all that game control stuff. TCU proved you can win a game that you don't score a lot of points in. You can win a game. They won that game on defense, really. And that is what national championship caliber teams do is when the game is presented that you have to win it this way, they adjust and they win it that way.
Yeah, they've done all that they can do, except they still have to win out 3 more games.
Yeah. Yep. But I do think that game proved a lot to a lot of people this weekend. This is not like, they've got to be in a shootout and then just wear people down. No, they can grind you into dust too.
Yeah, they can do whatever they need to at the end of the game to get whatever they need to get a victory. They are very resilient. Very much not a team that rides the waves too much. They just kind of stay steady Eddie. Whereas, I think like a Baylor, for example, gets too high, gets too low, gets too high, gets too low. I think TCU just kind of stays in that middle ground and, never loses their cool. And I think that's a testament to the head coach and just kind of the message throughout the staff that's being sent. They got a good culture, obviously, there right now. And I would love to know Gary Patterson's thoughts. I'm sure he would say, and I'm sure he would mean to some extent, he's happy for the school and the players that he recruited and all of that, but I know there's got to be another side of him that's just burning up at the thought that they just beat the team you're now with, and they're 10-0, and yes, they had this golden opportunity right in front of them. But I do think these last 3 games are, I think Baylor this weekend, you got to be on alert. You can't just let your guard down now. Iowa State, the same thing. Even if you feel like, there's no way you can't outscore them, well, they'll drag you down and make it a 14-10 game before you know it. And so they're going to have to be really careful there. And then, looking like maybe a K-State rematch, and that would be juicy here in 3 weeks if that's what it turns into. That's where it looks like it's headed right now. But, yeah, TCU's been impressive. They have.
Who had a better weekend in the Big 12 coaching? Was it Kansas State's Joe Klanderman, their defensive coordinator, or was it TCU's defensive coordinator who was the best defensive coach in that stadium at DKR?
I was just going to say Chris Kleiman was awfully happy in his post-game interview. That game meant a lot to them, and that was something they'd been building towards for a couple of years. Even talked about how they mimic some of the stuff that Baylor does. Yep. So I know that he's feeling like a coach of the weekend after that one. But I don't know. I think both those efforts were great. Probably I just default to Gillespie because they're unbeaten. They went into Austin and won, and they shut down, an offense that's got a lot of future NFL guys, and they did it without having anybody really given any thought that they would be able to do that and thinking that the offense would win them a game if they were able to win it. So I'd go Gillespie there.
Question from Paxton, then we got to say goodnight. Thank you, Paul. Garrett, Paul, Craig,